everyone to our 7th Randau Kepemimpinan. To bless our session today, I would like to invite Dr. Aswandi bin Laman to recite a doa.
آمين 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 بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين على أمور الدنيا والدين صلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وعلى طاعتك اللهم أحينا بالإيمان وأمتنا بالإيمان واحشرنا بالإيمان وأدخلنا الجنة مع الإيمان ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير ربنا يسر ولا تعسر ربنا تم بالخير صلى الله على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Thank you, Dr. Aswandi, for the doa. Now, we'd like to invite Tuan Haji Edmund Shah bin Tambi, Pengarah Institut Aminuddin Baki, Cawangan Sarawak, for his welcoming speech.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih diucapkan kepada Puan Moderator Majlis kita pada hari ini yang dihormati Puan Jacqueline Martin, serta jabatan di Jabatan Kerjasama Luar dan Antarabangsa Institut Aminuddin Baki, Cawangan Sarawak. Yang berbahagia, tetamu istimewa Randau kita pada siri ke-7 kali ini, yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Madeline Burma, satu figura besar dalam dunia pendidikan, insan hebat, kelahiran Bumi Kinyalang. Yang berusaha Dr. Siti Nurshila binti Khairuddin, Timbalan Pengarah Institut Aminuddin Baki, Cawangan Sarawak. Ketua Jabatan Barisan Pensyarah, Pemimpin dan Pentadbir Institusi Pendidikan seluruh negara dan seterusnya. Semua warga Randau Kepemimpinan Institut Aminuddin Baki, Cawangan Sarawak. Alhamdulillah, webinar bulanan IAB Cawangan Sarawak sekali lagi bersiaran secara langsung di saluran YouTube Institut Aminuddin Baki, Cawangan Sarawak kami untuk tontonan anda semua, termasuk penonton setia siaran warga Randau yang saban kali akan berterusan memberikan sokongan sepenuhnya kepada kami di IAB Cawangan Sarawak. Alhamdulillah. Jadi, alhamdulillah sekali lagi siaran kita selaku One Moderator dan juga selaku pembaca doa kita pada hari ini. Dan juga tim produksinya yang dianggotai oleh pensyarah kanan kedua-dua jabatan, iaitu yang berusaha Datin Filina Morrison dan juga Puan Loretta Henry Yan. Alhamdulillah ya. Terima kasih diucapkan kepada pasukan produksi Randau Kepemimpinan IAB Cawangan dan juga seorang insan yang disegani, yang sangat berilmu, pendidik yang ikhlas dan aktivis yang mahu melihat nilai dan kebaikan diterapkan dalam kehidupan bermasyarakat dengan penuh tolerance. Selain seorang pengkaji yang selalu turun padang dan bergaul dengan masyarakat, tak lain tak bukan yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Madeline Burma. Apa khabar Datuk? Jadi alhamdulillah ya, beliau sudi menerima jemputan kita tampil untuk berbicara mengenai pendidikan dalam dunia buka, peranan pemimpin komuniti, peranan pemimpin pendidikan di dalam maupun di luar bandar, selain mempromosikan bagaimana kita nak mengekalkan our diversity serta our inclusivity, kepelbagaian budaya dalam negara kita, dan insyaAllah beliau akan kaitkan perkongsian beliau nanti dengan sambutan Hari Kemerdekaan Malaysia yang ke-66. InsyaAllah. Alhamdulillah, pada hari Khamis nanti 31 Ogos, tuan-tuan dan puan, hari yang cukup istimewa untuk kita, rakyat Malaysia, di mana kita akan meraihkan hari kebangsaan kita yang bertemakan pada tahun ini, Malaysia Madani, tekad perpaduan, penuhi harapan. Satu temar yang mempunyai maksud yang cukup bermakna untuk dihayati segenap lapisan rakyat dan masyarakat, dan insyaAllah akan dikaitkan dalam pengisian Randau kita pada hari ini. Inilah peluang kita untuk menimba ilmu sebanyak mungkin, insyaAllah, daripada insan idola ramai anak muda ni, untuk kita sama-sama fahami, sama-sama hayati dunia pendidikan kita yang bersepadu dan holistik ini dari pandangan seorang ahli akademik yang amat kita banggakan, insyaAllah. Jadi untuk makluman semua, Randau Kepemimpinan IAB Cawangan Sarawak adalah platform maya bagi warga kepimpinan pendidikan yang menyajikan sesi dialog santai berkaitan perkongsian pengalaman dan kepakaran tokoh-tokoh kepimpinan dalam negara sebagai wacana untuk kita terus berinspirasi dan bermotivasi dalam memahami lebih mendalam ilmu dan budaya kepimpinan autentik sebagai asas melakukan tugasan harian dalam organisasi. InsyaAllah, ayo kita sama-sama selami, kita sama-sama fahami apa yang akan dikongsikan oleh yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Madeline Burma, dan diharapkan perkongsian hari ini akan menjadi sumber inspirasi kepada pemimpin-pemimpin pendidikan yang memimpin organisasi masing-masing di seluruh negara sebagai wadah untuk bekerjasama secara sistematik dan memanfaatkan sumber yang digunakan secara efisien, secara efektif untuk mencapai tujuan-tujuan tertentu, insyaAllah. Seikhlasnya, jutaan terima kasih kepada yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk atas perkongsian ilmu dan pengalaman yang saya pasti amat berharga nanti. Jadi mudah-mudahan ilmu dan pengalaman yang akan dikongsikan nanti dapat menjadi panduan kepada kami, warga pendidik, khususnya para pemimpin dan juga pengurus institusi pendidikan di sekolah, di PPD, JPN, bahagian-bahagian KPM. InsyaAllah kita akan berkongsi ilmu hari ini. Didoakan agar ia dapat memberi satu nilai tambah pada karakter positif pemimpin yang berupaya memberi kepuasan kepada pengikut-pengikut mereka dalam menghasilkan prestasi kerja dan budaya yang cemerlang di organisasi. Tuan-puan Randau sekalian, saya sekali lagi mengambil peluang di kesempatan ini untuk mengucapkan selamat Hari Kebangsaan dan selamat Hari Malaysia pada semua warga pendidik dan penonton Randau ini. Terima kasih sekali lagi saya ucapkan kepada tetamu Randau kerana sudi menjadi tetamu Randau kepimpinan kita pada hari ini, dan juga terima kasih sekali lagi kepada tuan-puan, para penonton, para pendengar siaran Randau Kepimpinan IAB Cawangan Sarawak. Selamat berandau semua. Jika ada soalan yang ingin dikemukakan nanti, gunakan peluang ini untuk menitipkan soalan anda di ruangan chat dalam YouTube ini, dan jika kita berkesempatan dan masa mengizinkan, kita akan usahakan untuk menjawab soalan-soalan yang dikemukakan nanti. Jadi jika tidak berpeluang, insyaAllah kita carikan cara yang lebih baik untuk kita menjawab atau berespon kepada soalan-soalan. Jadi dengan itu, saya sudahi ucapan ini dengan lafaz wabillahi taufiq hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat berandau semua. Sekian daripada saya, Edmund Shah Tambi, Pengarah Institut Aminuddin Baki, Cawangan Sarawak. Silakan, Puan Moderator.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's insightful webinar titled Navigating Leadership, Facing Buka, the Role of Community and Rural Education Leaders. My name is Jacqueline Martin, and I'll be your moderator for this session. Very good morning, Yang Berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Madeline Burma. How are you today?
Hey, hi, I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking some of your precious time to be with us here today in this 5th Randau Kepemimpinan Institute Aminuddin Baki, Cawangan Sarawak for this year. Okay, before we begin, let me introduce you to our invited guest, Yang Berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Madeline Burma. She is an honorary Professor at UNIMAS, Adjunct Professor at Talas University, Fellow Academy of Science Malaysia, Senior Fellow Institute Masa Depan Malaysia, Commissioner Suhakam, member of Malaysian Competitive Commission, and also Deputy Chair, National Education Policy Review Committee. Okay, so in today's rapidly changing world, educational leaders are confronted with unprecedented challenges, particularly in the context of VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Our webinar aims to explore the pivotal role that community and rural educational leaders play in navigating these challenges. So basically, in today's session, we will unfold as follows: a deep dive into the VUCA concept, how we can transform education in the VUCA world, and also the role of the community and rural educational leaders in the era of VUCA. So we would like to pass the stage, our online stage today to you, Yang Berbahagia Professor Dato. So let's make this webinar an enlightening and transformative experience for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, let me begin by saying thank you very much to you, Puan Jacqueline, and the team for making it possible for me to share my views, my thoughts on this very, very, what do you call, timely topic, actually. I'm not too sure whether in the context of Malaysia it's timely, because if you notice there, the VUCA is without the age. Yeah, is actually now, especially after the COVID, there is an age to it. See how fast time flies. But I purposely put it until VUCA for the title, because I really wanted to provide the earlier context for the whole discussion first. Okay, I was given this title, Peranan Community dan Pemimpin Pendidikan Pendalaman Mendepani VUCA. So in English is of course the role of community and community and education leaders. And it's stated pendalaman in rural areas, I assume, because in Malaysia we have cities, urban, rural, and interior. So I assume it is not meant for, it is purposely meant for those in the rural and maybe the interior. And I am so fortunate because I had some experience during my Suhakam days when I had to deal with teachers calling me up to request for, their students because of internet issues. So Suhakam is a human rights commission. So I said, oh my goodness, so I will definitely share a bit about this later. Okay, so I think we will begin. So I will conduct this presentation either both it's either in English or in Malay. So we can do it either both ways later, even during the Q&A. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so there'll be 4 parts to my presentation. I will introduce myself briefly, although you did introduce, because I think I'm so typical a lecturer after 30 more years. So the first thing you'll do when you enter a class is to introduce oneself, in case if the student asks you or meet you in the future, they cannot even remember your name. I do have that kind of problem, When my students, we meet them 10 years later, I don't remember my lecturer. When I ask them, who was your lecturer teaching economics? They only remember your size. That fat lecturer, the one with the mustache, or the one, whatever they describe you, but they don't remember their names. So I really want our students to remember our name. At least your cikgu lah, your favorite, or the lecturer or your teacher that you really don't want to remember, but it's good to remember their names. So I will introduce myself briefly. And then I will dive into VUCA. Why is this VUCA thing such a big thing now? Now, both in education and especially in the business world. I thought economics and the university And we have been using this acronym, oh my goodness, continuously. And of late, not only VUCA, is Madani. So I think first is VUCA, then now we have this acronym Madani. So I really think that we need to do a lot of, soul searching nowadays to understand all this acronym in this world. Okay. So the third part, I will focus on how do we transform education in a VUCA environment. I come from, tertiary education. But it does not have much difference in the sense that we are facing the same kind of challenges as what the schools are. But of course, your challenge are a bit more really challenging for me compared to us at the university. But the university is a bit different because the nature of our challenge is more global, because we have international students. Suddenly our students are stuck here, or our students are stuck overseas, and we cannot get them back. And as much as you're talking about internet, it is really just now, this is where the edge comes in later, hyper connectivity. And the last part of the presentation will be on community and leaders in the era of VUCA. Okay, allow me to introduce myself. I have a bit of a sore throat here. Okay. My background, I did my bachelor's of economics. So my background is economics, UKM. My master's in the University of Wisconsin, US, and my PhD at University of Hull, England. But where I really learned the best in terms of education is out there in the field. That is where I am. I am a researcher. My work has always been on poverty and inequality. So if you ask me, it is not at UKM, it's not only in USA, or it's not only in England. It is in the fields of Sarawak. It is in the Rumah Panjai. It is in the slum of Kuala Lumpur, in Indonesia, in the Philippines, in Indonesia, that I learned the most about what I need to teach my students. So it's not the textbooks anymore. So that is something that I would like to share. So this is my research, one of the areas when I was doing statelessness in Sabah, one of my favorite area. So that is basically, that's my normal photo. Other than that, today I look a bit composed because I need to do my presentation nicely to you. Okay, just now my affiliation, I have already informed. I think Puan Jacqueline has already highlighted that. But basically, I am an academic, I am a researcher, and I do a lot of work in terms of poverty. Okay, next. All right. Now, allow me to provide the context of VUCA. What is this thing called VUCA? We have been thinking about VUCA, talking about VUCA, and then sometimes, but I have friends who ask me, when I was in I remember presenting in a seminar in Cebu recently, and somebody in the market said that we thought we saw you, and then you did mention something about VUCA. Nama VUCA, so they thought it was something that it's not an interesting name, not a nice name. Now, for us who do a lot of work on change, theory of change, the word VUCA comes to mind when these two incidents. I think most of us lived through it, although we had very poor memories. But I think the first memory is of September 11 attack in 2001. I remember I was in a car. My friend called me up and he said, "Did you hear the news that there was a crash at Twin Towers in the States?" And I said, "Oh, you mean is it what? Is it a prank or is it what?" But that was not the period when we had all the internet, the TikTok. I bet if we had all the TikTok, then we'll have more TikTok than this TikTok, So it was a different world because it was from CNN. So I told my friend, no, I did hear about it. And I said, probably it's just one of those things. Like US, they like to exaggerate things, like, for example, sometimes, it's a very legalistic society. So everything they like to blow up, So I said, don't worry. But suddenly, after when I arrived home, that's when I saw this very, very powerful image of the Twin Towers. I was very touched because I've been to the Twin Towers. I've been there when I was doing my studies. So I have visited there. I have friends in New York. So when I saw this image, it's a very profound image. It was an image when, I think all of us will remember that forever. When you see that aeroplane that goes to the first tower, and then the second tower, and later we saw it crumbling down. So I think that was the first thing. And that was when the word VUCA came into people start using the term by the U.S. Army College because of the word of, what VUCA means. Later I will explain. And then the second thing, I think, which is still very fresh in our memory, though as much as possible we want to forget about it, the close down, the lockdown, not the close down so much, but the lockdown, the MCO, the RMCO, all the O's that you can remember. Okay. And my relatives in the Longhouse will ask me, nama kubitnya. We were having COVID at the time. And then we Iban, how we Iban like to pronounce things. So, nama kubit kurang. So they thought it was kubit, where you pinch. But it's actually COVID, COVID-19. So these two phenomena, really, the first one introduces us to VUCA. The second one is actually what VUCA is all about. Now, what is VUCA? Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, there are three words, and there are four words to VUCA. V is volatile. In Malay, it means it's something that is so dynamic. It's so unpredictable. The change is so fast. So that's why we said it is very volatile, like a relationship that is very volatile. You cannot predict it. Who would have predicted the aeroplane will go and bang against the two towers? So, the world is so volatile. The second one is uncertainty. So there's so much uncertainty in this world today. Look at Malaysia. I'm not even sure. For all you know, we're going to have another election. I'm not sure. Political uncertainty, economic uncertainty. Look at our, the environment that we live now. Everything, you're not sure. Yeah? So that is the uncertainty. VU. Now the third one is C. That is complexity. Oh my goodness. Everything is so complex. When life used to be so simple, simple things makes us happy. Now everything is so complex. Just to make a decision, just to have a meeting, I have to plug in the computer. Belum lagi, you can imagine all the TikTokers and everything. The social media makes everything is so complex. And the last one is ambiguous. Ambiguous means there is nothing clear about it. There is something is so ambiguous that you're not very clear. What is it actually? All these things, that's why if we look at the matrix, as you go to the right, how much do you know about the situation? So from being ambiguous, it becomes so uncertain. Now, on the vertical side, we can see that how well can we predict the outcome of our action. So it comes from being ambiguous to being very, very complex. So now, we are all educators. We are all educators, regardless who we are. We are educators. I am a lecturer. All of you are, educational leaders. Some are teachers. Even at home, we are also educating our family, our children. So this is the world that we are living in. We need to recognize that this is a very, very complex world. But after COVID, we have another one. They put it the age. But some people put the age as a response. But in some cases, they put age as VUCAH. But in some cases, they put as age is hyperconnectivity, meaning to say you need to hyperconnect in order for you to be to respond to the VUCA environment. But I will choose today to treat it as VUCA. Now, when we say VUCA, why is VUCA, so important in this present world, and why we need to understand it? See, this is the thing that is happening now. Everything is so complex, everything is so volatile, so uncertain, so ambiguous. So it is very important for us to be aware of what is happening around us. My biggest fear, my biggest concern, my biggest worry is when I see my student, when you ask them what is happening around them, blur. The word is blur, just like my iPhone camera, not focus, it goes blur. So these are the things that is very worrying. They are not concerned what is happening out there. They are not concerned whether the world is going to tumble tomorrow. What they are concerned only is about, social media. They are so obsessed with their, the attention to social media. So that's why nowadays we must recognize that, they cannot go beyond 47 minutes. That's what they say. In fact, technically, it's only about 47 seconds. That's why TikTok is so popular. I need to use, forgive me for using a particular name, but I think it is really a part and parcel of our life. Okay, next one, please. Next slide. So because of the VUCA environment, we take it, look at what the environment experiences changes that are disruptive. Look at what happened during COVID. And it totally disrupts our world. I have never experienced anything that is so destructive, so different, like what we experienced during COVID. Okay? I lost 8 of my close friends and family members during COVID. So can you imagine? There are people who lost their jobs. There are people who lost their income. There are people who lost their family members. It is such a disruptive. So very high risk and very unstable. So can you imagine in school at that time? I cannot imagine, for our teachers, for our children, even us at the university. Okay, then the environment offers too little information because we are unaware of what is happening. I remember when COVID first came out, the word COVID never existed in our vocabulary. Okay, so in 2018, actually, it was in December. Then 2019, and it was only, and the world thought it was just an ordinary, it was just an ordinary flu. It was just an ordinary issue that it will not be happening too much. It will affect the whole world. And that's when the World Health Organization declared it, I think it was in February or it was in March, that the World Health Organization declared it as a pandemic rather than an endemic, because pandemic means it goes beyond a particular border. It goes global. So it is something that we have never really experienced before, and we don't have any information. And it was the beginning of the rest, to become the first to find the vaccine. So I was really obsessed at that time. I was following the internet. Who is going to be the first to achieve that status, the first to find the vaccine, the first to develop the vaccine? And I was so happy when I remember reading the first time the couple from Germany, they were Turkish couple, when they found the vaccine and they brought it to Pfizer. Because I know as an economist what it means, what the world will see when we first had our the vaccine. And as what we predicted in economics, there was so little information. We only have one at a time. So it was Pfizer, and you cannot imagine the billions of dollars that people benefited, the pharmacy companies were getting from the sale of that vaccine. So because there was no information at all at that time. So you see, the world is so, the world is so unclear. And then you see it's so uncertain not because of lack of data, too much of data. And suddenly we see that the world, that's why Google becomes, it's about such a big business, because it is how do you manage data now. It is data overload. During my time, you go to the library, take your own sweet time and check out your books. Now you don't have to go to the library. The books are coming to you. The information is coming to us. Okay. The third one is C. The environment is dynamic with many interrelated moving parts. Meaning to say everything is always on the move. Decisions are made. We don't have to wait for, coming in a university, especially in public university, it takes years for you to get your curriculum approved. You have to go through so many processes. And luckily, I am from UKM, where we have self-accreditation, because only a few universities you can do self-accreditation, meaning to say we have an inbuilt system that allows us at one time, that was before COVID, that allows us to come up with our curriculum. But even then, we have to wait for Senate meeting. And Senate meeting is not every day. So to come up, just to change a small part of the syllabus, oh my God, first you have to go to the cluster meeting, jabatan meeting, and then faculty meeting. That doesn't mean everybody agrees. Just to change one word, just to change one part of the section. That's why I remember while we were busy struggling, discussing our syllabus at the university at that time, there was the uprising in the Middle East. Harvard University already has its lecturers right there at the crisis, during the crisis. We are still busy thinking whether we should include or not in the syllabus. The people, all the top universities, they were already, real time discussing what to include in their syllabus. And here we are in UKM at the time, still thinking, should we or shouldn't we include? Or if we include, so by the time we included, the thing has finished already, and nobody cares about what is happening. So I think this is where it's very important. Timing is very important. Chaos, confusion, and sometimes very unproductive, like what we are doing now. So we spend more time politicking rather than doing anything else. So that is a VUCA work. And of course, the last part is that it's ambiguous, ambiguity. Nothing is specific. Nothing is, there is no pattern. We cannot predict. So we cannot predict the future of our student. You imagine my student until now, when I meet them, I thought that they will become economists or what. Oh no, doctor, I am, I am now a chef in one of those, they were telling me on an international cruise. And I was saying, where did you learn cooking? No, doctor, you don't have to learn cooking to be a chef. And I said, what do you mean? So then later I realized that he is in charge of a business, handling chef. Because my brain only thinks is chef, cooking. Now it's no longer like that. So the world has changed. So we as educators must be open, because, we cannot always think the way we used to think, So it is very, very painful to look at, the world changing so fast, and we are so slow in responding. Yeah? Even me, I'm still using PowerPoint. People are talking about chat LGBT. I said, mati lah if I were to use that. First, I don't trust the system. Secondly, I don't trust my student. And I said, soon I will not even trust myself. But that is what it is. We should be open to new ideas, to new ways. I remember, when we first, in UKM, we first introduced where they said, it is not required anymore for students to enter classes. During my, when I was a student, you need to attend your classes. You can only be absent for certain days, maybe 3 days in one whole semester. Then when I became a lecturer, it became, the student need to attend classes at least 70%, minimum 70% to qualify for exam. Later, we found out, or later the instruction said, your student don't have to come to class. They can be having holiday in Langkawi, but you come to them, not they come to you. So we need to prepare all our lectures online. The only time they have the exam is only one particular day that they have their exam. Oh my goodness, it was mind-blowing for me. What? There I have to stay in, doing my lecture notes, and my students are going to enjoy themselves in Langkawi. But actually the world is changing. There is a very good article by the Harvard Business Review. They said at one time it was work from home, and now study from home. And soon it will be, you can work anywhere, and then you can study anywhere. And the most important thing is, it's not the place. Like now, I went to the US in 2019, just before the COVID. I had a reunion at my university. That's when I realized that students don't have a proper classroom anymore. They want kuliah. And here I am in university. We are still struggling which kuliah room that we should visit. What is most important? Where you can plug your laptop. The student can be anywhere. They can be at a park. So they do have parks where they plug their laptops and everything. So if they need to have live, so that kind of thing. And similarly, office, they don't have fixed office anymore. Who comes first? You have access to that space. So if you're late, then sorry, you don't have a space, so you cannot do your work. So the system itself prevents you from doing something that you used to do in the past. So I think the world is really, really something that I never knew of. So I used to tell myself, I said, oh, I think I am too old for this generation, and there are so many things I cannot do. You see, that's why people say the illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So I am really, really learning to learn. Like ChatGPT, I'm lost. I don't know how to do it. People are talking about AI, and here I am still learning how to use my PowerPoint. How boring can it be? Okay, let's move on. Next one. Now, the third one, how can we transform education in a VUCA world? Okay, move on. Right. Oh, this is a typical classroom. Everywhere you go, it's the same one, student facing the teacher. From the day I entered school until I think after, but that was my generation. But nowadays, it changes slightly only. They just turn around the table. So maybe not facing the teacher. Maybe in some schools, they do have, the tables, they put it in a different manner. I came back from Japan before COVID. That was before COVID. There was not even an H world, not even a VUCA yet. It was only a VUCA world. In Japan, they even have, they don't have tables. Some of the schools. They only have bean bags. Can you imagine having bean bags? How nice. I mean, for some classes, not all the classes, you cannot do your math on a bean bag, So that was one of the innovation classes. And the students can enter whichever class they want. I put pudding. And I was thinking, then how do I know which class am I supposed to go? Whichever class you think that you want to learn. That was exactly what those lecturers from Finland told us. Like, for example, a student, for that particular day, he wants to know something about history. So, and his understanding of history is a bit more advanced. So he cannot be in the same history class. So he decided to go to the, maybe the third, if he or she is in primary 3. So she wants to attend the primary 6 one. It's okay. Try doing that in Malaysia. Everything will go haywire. Okay. So, but of course, this one requires change. We cannot do things very, very fast. But the VUCA environment requires us, or rather necessitate us to respond. But this is the problem with Malaysia. I think I'm not talking about education. We fail to respond because of the COVID. We had all the opportunities to do what is necessary, but we didn't. Look at our, like for example, working from home. all other countries in the world are responding to it. They allow their workers to work from home. But Malaysia, oh no, come back. If you are in Kuala Lumpur, you cannot imagine the traffic jam that we are experiencing here in Kuala Lumpur now. Why? Because number one, people are coming back. There's nothing wrong with it. Number two, people are getting multiple jobs. So they move from one place to another. So there is a high transport. So people are thinking, what about the, work from home? Because why? We don't trust these people. We have the concept of trust deficit, because we think that if we allow our teachers to teach from home, we allow our workers to teach from home, we said that, mesti tipunya, cuma they jual online. Why don't we think of it differently? We give them a job. There is a KPI. There is a work that needs to be done. Let them do it. But we need to have good monitoring system. And we need to trust our people. We need to trust our teachers. We need to trust our educators. And also, to a certain extent, we need to trust our politicians also to make good decisions. Okay? So now, what is the traditional education teach learners about the world? Number one, the world is a stable world. Nothing happened today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. Like a political party, dulu, sekarang, dan selama-lamanya. Look at it. Look at what is happening now to a political party who believes that ex-political party that says, saya adalah ahli parti X dulu, sekarang, dan selama-lamanya. Dan selama-lamanya doesn't work anymore. Look at how during the last election, our world completely changed. We cannot imagine parti pembangkang becoming kerajaan or parti kerajaan, combined on so many things. So we need to change, for the good, for the better, and of course for the best of our nation. So number one, the world is no longer stable. But we live in an environment like we teach our learners about the world. It's about stability. It is certain that you are certain to get a job, that you are certain to graduate. After you graduate, you will get a job. And what job you will get? If you are an economic student, you graduate as an economic student, you will join the business or in economic. If you take education, then you will become a teacher. The stage is so clear, and the world is so simple. 1 plus 1 is 2. But 1 plus 1 is no longer 2 nowadays. We have fuzzy mathematics. The world has changed. 1 and 1 is no longer 2. 1 and 1 may be 0.5, or 1 plus 1 equal to 1.5, or whatever it is. Math has reached a certain level, so it is not as straightforward. And nothing is as clear anymore. So clarity is already no longer an issue. So our assumption of the traditional education system is that we know what you need to know. So we tell our student, you keep quiet, you sit there. I am the teacher, you are the student. I know best for you. That sounds like, we as parents, lamak makan garam. Nowadays, nobody wants to eat garam anymore. So garam is no longer that important anymore. So these are the kind of things that we need to really understand, that we know what you need to know is no longer valid. We must realize that both of us don't know what is happening. Just that I am probably slightly better position. You may be, unlike our students, many of them are, much younger than us. So, we may be a bit more aware of what is happening. And so we know what you need to know and how to test that you know it. So we thought that by testing them, we did it. But see, that assumption is based on the world as it was. That's why we kept on asking, what is happening? The word was. And maybe a little bit of is. Is present. But we never know, we never even work out what it will be in the future. So was, we are very good at it. That's why we think that we know better, because we are the elders, we are the elderly. So like myself, I'm the eldest in the family. Oh, my brothers, must listen to me because dah makai garam dulu dah. I'm one of the earliest to taste garam. Kasi dia buat garam ni. And then a little bit about now, but actually not in the future. When we talk about was, we tend to be a master of it because we thought that we know best. We know what it was. But actually, don't be surprised. Sometimes, or not sometimes, a lot of times, our student knows better than us. I'm talking about university student. Don't think that we know better than them, because information is so easily available that, your students or our students have easier or better access to this information as compared to us. I remember when I first joined university, my lecturer was so, I thought my lecturers are all, oh my God, they are the most intelligent people walking on earth. Yeah, because they have all the books, no? And I, as a student, I only have notes, nota kuliah. But my lecturers have all the textbooks and everything, because it's very difficult to have access to books during those periods. Now, it's the other way around. I think our students have better access to information, to knowledge compared to us. Like, for example, economic books. I just give a very simple example. Economic books used to cost about almost like 200 ringgit. About 550, 160, 170 ringgit. So our students seldom buy textbooks. Nowadays, ya ampun, you can have all the different edition of the books. Either you can buy it online, or my smarter student even can have it for free. They even showed it to me, doctor, you want free buku econometrics, but of course it's not the latest edition. It was only like 1 year, one edition backwards, but it's still the same, except that maybe they didn't update some of the data. Oh my goodness, I said my students are so that's why we must be open enough to recognize that our students are better than us. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, what does VUCA education means? Number one, it is very, very important for us to recognize that change is the permanence nowadays. The only thing that is permanent is change. The paradox of that statement. The only thing that is permanent is change. Meaning to say, the world is changing, everything is changing. So we need to keep, and we need to welcome it. We need to embrace it and not look at change as if it is always destructive. Because we have a tendency to look at new things with a lot of apprehension. We don't want to change because if first, of course, banyak kerja. That's the first thing that comes from our word. Aduh, banyaknya kerja. I have to do something. I have to learn something new. But if you are a minority like me, I am a minority in UKM, you have no choice but to change and embrace it, because or else you cannot survive. You need to embrace change. So the word I need to highlight here is change. So change, as I mentioned just now, you can repeat it put it in a corner there, that the only permanent thing that is happening now is change. Now, number two, most important is that learners, they don't call them student anymore. We don't call them like our students, we call them, because they are learners. They're just like us. We are also learning. It's not only our students are learning. Our teachers are learning. Our students are learning. So learners direct their own courses through education and discovering a joy. The word here is joy. They need to enjoy learning. So do not overload our students with exam. They are not upset. The world, nobody goes out anymore to ask you. I always tell my students, please do not hafal. Please do not, memorize how economics, the supply and demand. Nobody during the interview will ask you, how did you get the equilibrium? How did you get your equation right? Nobody asks you that. They will ask you about things that you know, and like how can you make the world a better place. So don't go and start memorizing it. It's important for them to know, very, very important for them to know, but that is not the ultimate. But we must inculcate joyful learning. Our students at school, students at the universities, learners, they must enjoy learning. And why is it that we enjoy learning overseas? We always remember our university education. And you ask kids, parents who have been overseas, when they brought their children back from overseas, oh my God, they said the children will complain that they don't want to go to school. You know why? Because I'm not saying that just because the facilities are better. I don't think so. But it's the teachers and how they treat their children, and how education, what education is all about. It is learning new things. Because I remember when I was in England, I met a lot of my friends, my colleagues who went to study in England at that time. So every time when the children come back from school, they will show us the badges that they will receive from the teachers. They will have 1 star or 2 star. And I will ask them, how did you get your star? What did you do today? Initially, I thought because they score in their class. Oh, today they happened to help a lady cross the road. You imagine, did we ever give stars to our children for helping an elderly lady cross a road? Because in England, the school is maybe they have the zebra crossing, and then they have the lollipop lady. So somehow or another, somebody was crossing the road. So this young kid was, holding a hand of an elderly lady. Maybe not that old, because at the time they think that we are very old. So maybe a mother or somebody, just to cross the road, because there all the cars will need to stop, because the lollipop lady is very powerful in England. We call them the lollipop lady, the one who helped you cross the zebra. So they will get a badge, and then another student will come, another child will tell me, oh, today, what did you do? Oh, we went to the garden. And what did you do? They were, playing with animals. And I'm sorry to say, including Malaysian kids, our Malay Muslim kids, the only thing that they cannot do is, because in England, they have a lot of pigs in the farm. And the pigs are really, really cute. That's the only thing. So the teachers understood that because of religious. See, and they will tell the other non-Muslim students that why their classmates cannot touch pigs, piglets. The piglets are so cute. So they will tie ribbon. They will show you photos. You see the joy of learning. I said, how come I never do that in my school last time? I need to memorize so many things. And they love every time they come back from school, they will tell them. And of course, they do learn. Like in winter, they will go out and walk and look at the trees and everything. They will learn how to count. They will learn how to sing. They will learn history. They will go to the castle, and they will come back and tell us. But I'm sure in Malaysia, a lot of teachers wanted to do that, but because of limitation. But these are little changes. Wherever that you can do, please do it. Especially we are in Sarawak. I tell you, we are so rich in all this. I was telling myself when I was preparing this lecture, I said, oh my God, I wish in Sarawak we can start doing all this, bring our students, our little kids, go in the boat or whatever, but of course parents go paranoid. Night sampan, including me lah. My anak saudara want to go camping already, I paranoid. I say, oh, please don't go swimming, please don't do this. And then they were telling me, then what is camping if you don't go swimming, you don't walk in the jungle? I said, no, you make sure that, see, that is the reality. But here I am telling you, bukan main lagi. But in reality, actually, like any parents, they're very worried, So I think, how can we, because we must allow our kids to enjoy learning. Yeah. And then of course, silo. Just now we mentioned about VUCA, the age, connectivity. We need to be connected. Like what today, Loretta was my PhD student. And then now today I met on Jacqueline. So, I mean, I am here in Selangor, and they are all in Kuching, in Sarawak. And yet the world is becoming so small nowadays. We are so connected. Had it not been for COVID, I don't think we will ever explore Meet, Google Meet, or we will explore, whatever that we need to explore now. So these are the little changes, and we cannot work in silo anymore. So when Loretta told me, Doctor, is it possible for you to share your thoughts, with my college or whatever she called it, and I said, sure. I said, just find the right time. I'll be happy to do that. So we cannot work in silo anymore. There are little things that I know I can share with you, and there are things that you know later that you can share. So it is all about sharing. You will never get poorer by giving, and we never get richer also by all the time taking. People who keep on taking also never become multimillionaires. So neither do we if you keep on giving, if you share your knowledge, because in economics we learn that, the more you share your knowledge, actually your learning curve is getting better, and that actually you improve yourself, So you don't get rugi lah, don't share lah, because if you share next time, your ilmu somebody will curi. Don't worry, let them curi. It will be good if they curi also. So they will say, oh, at least they remember, this one, I took it from when I went, Aminuddin Baki's, I listened to this topic during the presentation. Okay, what VUCA education means again? Continue. Right. VUCA education means falling in love with the journey and not the destination. You see, in life, we are always very concerned about the place where we want to go, the journey. Our journey means at the end there. But learning is to enjoy the process. So we must educate, and we must create an environment that enables our students to remember for the rest of their life the little points in their journey when they reach their destination. As a lecturer, I think both Loretta and also Jacqueline, also as teacher, you will remember one day when suddenly you meet your student, and suddenly, I remember Cikgu dulu, I met you 10 years ago. I met one yesterday. He said, doctor, he said, you, even after you have retired, always see you, always hear your voice. I said, oh my God, I hope it's for good reason. Of course, for good reason, doctor. You always remember, you always reminded us of the need for us to give back to society. They always remember that. I said, that's why I told you. I said, don't always remember the economics part. The economic, even if you forget after you get a job, okay, already. But, enjoy that journey. What are the experiences? So your students, our students, must remember those experiences. Not something, not just about regretting and things like that. I remember all my university days. But of course, you remember, the moments that the teachers that you like, the teachers you think is harimau jadian lah, or you also have teachers that, or lecturers that you really, you say, you cannot escape from their class. And I also remember my teacher. I have one geography teacher. When I was a student, we hated the word hated. Really, the word, we hated her because she forced us to draw the, that was in Form 2. She forced us to draw the world map freehand. And until now, I can draw the world map freehand. And I can never forget my teacher, Mrs. E. God bless her. You see, at that time, of course you hated, because you can never get it right. But until now, she's my Form 2 teacher. I can still remember. And I can still draw, because in the old days, Form 3 exam, you must know how to draw your map. See, that's why in the old days, you learn how to draw your maps. But now, why you need to learn to draw your maps? Because everything is online. So the world has changed. So you don't have a geography teacher like Mrs. E to remember. But I want our teacher, but please make sure your student remember you for whatever reason, for the good, for the best, let them remember you. There's nothing wrong with it, because we are good role models, and we should be good role models to our students, because they are our products. I always tell we were being told in the university, we must be trigger R. In university, coming to UKM, we are expected to be 3R. 1, relevant. Number 2, respected. Number 3, referred. You must be relevant. You must be respected. And you must be referred. So if you are existing in just as a person, you come in and go, nobody realize you come, and what more, you go, something is wrong. So if you are relevant, somehow or another, if without Puan Jacqueline, the whole system doesn't work. And we here, it's good to be like that. But at the same time, of course, you cannot be like, not you. I'm talking about delegation and things like that. But people will always remember, they are the first one. Last time they always do this program differently. But somehow or another, she tweaked a bit. She did the changes, and she listened. This is the thing about female leadership. I love female leadership because I was heading the Women Leadership Center at UKM. So we talk about leadership from a female perspective. It's very different from male. I'm not saying male is bad, but what I'm saying is different. So that's why we need to give more women a chance to become leaders. Yeah. All right, that one will be a different topic. So that is very important. Falling in love. So the word love here. So the other one is focus on the skills that will help us meet an uncertain future, not skills that meet us and that will meet a future that is certain. At the moment, traditional education, we prepare them. If we teach them the certain thing, they will become like this, like that. But in reality, the world has changed. Okay, so we need to focus on those skills. And then the other one is we must learn from our mistakes. We must learn from our setbacks. In the last 1 week, I've been following Chandrayaan-3, the Indian spacecraft that landed on the moon. Okay, so it's called Chandrayaan-3. They failed. The first one, it didn't go. The second one, it did not land on the moon. They lost the what do you call it? They lost contact with the moon. With the I call it, I don't know how do they call it. So they lost contact. So they learn from their setbacks. They learn from the mistakes that they made in 2019 in Chandrayaan-2. And 2 days ago, I think on the 28th, 28 is today. 2 days ago or 3 days ago, India managed to land on the moon. Oh, it was a big success because there were only 4 countries that managed to land on the moon. And India was the first to land on the South Pole. That has never been done. So can you imagine? So they learn from their mistakes. And who would have thought? Many of us we would have thought US will be the first. As usual, we would think US, we would think Russia. But obviously, it is India was the first to reach the South Pole of the moon, the lunar moon. I get very excited about that. And then we must, they said that you must persevere through adversity. And then very, very important also, I think education. This is why we need on this Hari Kebangsaan later, I need to highlight that we need to know who we are and anchoring deeply to weather any storm that come. Meaning to say, who are we? We are Malaysians. We are Iban. We are Bidayu. We are Sarawakian. You need to be, you cannot be anybody else. You are born who you are. Then people say, don't forget we are Malaysian. Yes, we are Malaysian, but don't forget we are also Sarawakian. And also don't forget, we are not only Sarawakian. I'm from Kuching. I will always refer to my kampung. I am from Siolkandis. So there's nothing wrong with it. There must be a soul. We must have a soul. You see, that's why I am very much into traditional knowledge. I am really, that's why when I see, like for example, what do you call it? There was one, I saw one on one social media about an Iban boy who recited, he was doing he knows how to do the pantun, and he was doing it in the beginning of his class. And I thought it was, that is really, that is really kabat at its highest level. How many of us can do pantun? I'm talking about Iban pantun, all the mengap and everything. But we never treasure those. because we only treat it only maybe during gawai, and it is only for the elderly. But if you look at the knowledge level, the kind of knowledge that we need to have, that's why I said, our Dayak Cultural Foundation, I'm just using Dayak here because I do work with them at one time, and not work, I mean their collaboration. I said, we need to have more of this competition, not just limit it to Kumang and Kelir, because it doesn't really put value in terms of knowledge building. So that one is nice, in terms of attire and everything. That one is okay. I'm fine with that. But what about nganyam, weaving? Can you imagine the weaving if you get our students to do that? Real competition. I mean, I'm talking about real competition. I look at the Mori, when I was in New Zealand, the universities, how they promote all this. But look at us, because we are too homogeneous in that sense. So we must celebrate diversity. We must embrace diversity. We must get our people to feel who we are, and there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't make us a lesser Malaysian. It doesn't make us less, it doesn't make us love Malaysia less. In fact, it makes you love your country more. So that is very, very important. Don't think that if we do that, if we start wearing, having all these, images of a Bidayu or Peranan and Orang Ulu, in their attire, or the Orang Asli for that matter, or the Indians in their sari, or the Chinese in whatever, or the Malays in their Malay baju kurung, whatever. It says, some people said, you cannot have that. We cannot be homogeneous. We must celebrate diversity. All right. So next one. I'm really into that. Okay. Now, how do we prepare our students to flourish in the VUCA future? The best way to ensure students will flourish as adults is not to try to mold them into a perfect graduate profile. Like if you are an economics student, you must have this knowledge. You must have micro. You must have macro. You must have mathematics. You must have statistics. So that you can work in the bank, so that you can work in Bank Negara. How many people are going to be employed in Bank Negara? How many people are going to become PTD officers nowadays? So what if they want to take up dancing? That's why in the US is a very, the education system is a very, in England, it's elitist. It's a very elitist education system. In the US, it is a very liberal education system. That's why in the US, it's like a pyramid, whereby you get a lot of knowledge at an undergraduate level. You take up courses, tennis, you take up dancing, you take up piano lesson, you can take up whatever you want. Then you go to your master's, then you start specializing. Then you do your PhD. You are really specialized. But at the undergraduate level, you can take whatever you want. You can take up even religious study. If you want to do Sanskrit in economics, I'm an economics student, but I think I love, I need to learn something. I want to learn maybe Russian, maybe to do business in Russia. But try doing that in Malaysia. You cannot. You only have certain limitations. You only have this or that as your core subject. But in England, is also very elitist, because only the best of the best will enter the university. That's what we followed in the old days. But nowadays, So now, if you're good, enter university. The better students will complete earlier. In the US, if you're not as good, maybe you take time to graduate. So some people take 2 years. The good student will take 4 years. But the lesser good ones like me, maybe take a bit longer. My math, I need to do twice. But by the time I graduate, my knowledge will be the same. So that is the principle of liberal education for them. And for in England, that's why in England in the old days, you need to get very, very good result to enter university. But now we are reaching whereby education for all. So not only can you fly, everyone can fly, but now everyone can go for it. But that's why we are very worried, because we said now everybody has university education. You throw a stone, everybody has a degree. So what? So what's the problem? There's no problem in that. The better it is for our country. It is a human capital. Yeah. So, so we must not try to mold them into the perfect graduate profile or prepare them to be for the unknown future. Okay, next one. How do we prepare them? You just look at the red, what do you call it, font. What we need to do, we must empower them. So if you're teaching, like for us, we are teaching at a university, we need to empower our students. They know the best in terms of what subjects they want. And most importantly also, it's really 1 hour. So we need, it's also, they need to be informed and they need to be engaged citizens. You cannot put them like in a bawah tempurung. They need to know what is happening around them. Get them to be aware. So these are the kind of things that is important to enable them to flourish in the future. Okay, I need to go a bit faster because it's already 1 hour already. Continue. Okay, so what is the kind of learning environment? This one I took from my, we teach in our university. So we call it the learning agility. First, they must be agile. Agile means flexible. They must have the flexibility. They cannot be rigid, in terms of change. They must be curious. And we must be able to respond to our students. And if we do not know the answer, do not be embarrassed. Do not be sad to say, I don't know. People like me, imagine you, people say, oh, Professor Economics pun tak tahu, that kind of thing. But I said, I am not a walking machine. I'm not, it's not, but we must know how to say, I don't know how to do it. Or maybe he said, I'll come back and get back to you later. So we must also have the mental agility. We must a people person. Are we a people person? Or you only think that just because you're the boss, there's no boss and manager nowadays in the new world. Okay, so we must have the. I think we Sarawak don't have this problem. We are very, very, very. First, we are together, the rumah pandai mentality, the kampung mentality. We're still very strong in that sense. I notice. That's why we win a lot of sports. That's why we win a lot of competition because of that spirit. But I'm not saying only Sarawak, but what I'm saying, because since we are talking here from regarding our pendalaman here, so I think that this is very important for us. Develop it. How our network with the people in a village, in the longhouses. That's why my cikgu from Semenanjung, they just love it when after they transferred to Sarawak. They said, I have never eaten the fish, that they could, that they got from the river. But the parents of the children will send the ikan. They said, I don't know, cikgu. All this ikan that they've got, fresh water fish, imagine you, from the river. So they said, buah jangan cerita lah. All the time get fresh buah. Try asking cikgu from Kuala Lumpur. Kena marah mak bapak lagi ada kan. Apa tahu what to get from fish or fresh fruits. So, and then they also need to be, result, yes, in a way. But the other one is self-awareness. They need to be aware of themselves, their own strength, their own, So in the old days, it's always us telling our students. But nowadays, we need to empower them. We need to get them to realize that's why they need to attend a lot of courses online. There's so many, it's free, that kind of thing. Okay, next one. Okay, the 5 approaches to learning. I think this one you all know lah. An interactive and active learning, teaching through. This one is they call it virtual aid something training. This is what we use. Virtual. You need to use virtual. Virtual aid. I think and technical. That's technology based. Okay. And then number 3, because it's university, but even in school you can use case methods. Yeah, you take a case. Case means an incident. An incident, like for example, what happened in a particular school. Then you in university we use real case methods. Like in economics, we take a case, a company that goes bankrupt, and then we discuss why did this company go bankrupt. So in school, maybe what you can experience during the COVID, there was no internet. So what do you think we should be doing? Or how did other schools do it? So you learn from that case method. Yeah? And then number 4, you need to get continuous feedback. And then after that, of course, there is brainstorming. Sorry, next. The last one. Okay, next. Okay. Now, how do leaders, how do we respond to this? In a volatile world, this is how we respond to it. From VUCA, we can also respond it through VUCA. But the VUCA, the new VUCA, in a volatile world, we must have vision. Uncertainty, we must have understanding. In a time of complexity, we need to have something that is clear. So when we give instruction, it has to be clear. And in ambiguous, we must be agile. Okay, next one. But this one you all can accept it. You can have it. You can have access to the slide later. So vision means that's why we need to have good vision in where we are heading. What are we going to do? And how are we going to achieve our future? How you want to bring your center to where it is. Like in okay, how are you going to bring your college Menghadapi up to the in 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Leaders are visionary people. Look at Tun Mahathir. He was talking about 2020. God knows when was it. See, that is leadership. They don't talk about 2 years. They don't talk about 3 years. They're talking about short term means 5 years for them. So the good ones will be like 50 years, but that's too long. In planning, that's a bit too long. 10 years is okay lah, not bad. But 5 years is actually the best. If you can do that. And what are we going to do in 5 years' time? And don't start thinking, in 5 years' time, I will retire. Don't worry, your retirement will come. Even tomorrow you want to retire, you can still do today. That was what my vice chancellor told us in leadership. He said, even if I need to retire like tomorrow, tonight I'm still doing planning for the university. It's not that you want to still continue to become a vice chancellor or you want to continue to become a ketua jabatan, but it's just that you need to put things in place. A good leader is someone who has followers. It's not a good leader does not have followers. That is really a bad leader because they're kontek on it alone. All right. You need to set up team members. You need to have good team members and develop the team members. All right, next one. We need them with understanding, meet uncertainty with understanding. We must be able to respond. We must invest in information. We must collect and analyze data, share information. When I say data, not necessarily like people like us I'm in economic. Data is really data lah. I go to Department of Statistics, ask for data. But you people, things that you can share, whatever that you can share, knowledge, and then speak to be understood. It is not easy. Frankly, I can tell you that, because people like to interview me. So, and one of the reasons they said is that because I speak very loud, number one, but loud alone is not enough. But you have to be very clear. Clarity. Clarity is also clarity of thoughts. You cannot be clear in your speaking if you're not clear up here. So that's why it's very, very important. And it is something that you have to learn. You have to read and read and read. It's not something that just plucked from thin air. Yeah. So we try to speak to be understood so that people understand what we are trying to say. But I think teachers do not have a problem because many of you have been taught. But we all at the university, we do have a problem because we never attend kursus pengajaran, So we only attend only as a short course. But in education, you are very, very well taught. That one I really understand that. Okay, number 3. React to complexity with clarity. Communicate clearly. Do not give instruction like it's a PhD, thesis. Sometimes some people write letters like 3 or 4 pages. Actually, if you notice, official letters is actually 1, 2, 3, 4 lines only. When you write a letter, they always joke, when they said, we Ibans, we tend to be very elaborate, So when I write letters, I like long essays, and I also said I blame my Iban, my Iban background because we Iban, we have the introduction, the body, and then the conclusion, But if you look at official letters, if we receive official letters from our vice chancellors, or we receive letters from the minister, very clear, straightforward, 1 or 2 lines. Okay. And then there must be transparency in information, and then we must collaborate, and then VUCA, as I said, it is also part of society 5.0, the smart society. But I don't want to talk about smart society. I feel very sad. I will cry thinking that Sarawak, not even society 2.0, also not sure whether we have reached that level. Okay, because 5.0 is that, your household, your home is all interconnected with all the gadgets and everything. That is what we aspire. I'm not even sure, society 1.0 is the primitive one, the hunting and gathering. 2.0 is agri. 3.0. So as it goes up, so there will be, a 4.0 will be the Internet of Things and things like that. So I said, even Sarawak, I'm not sure. 3.0 also not sure. Okay, never mind. Okay, number 4. Sikit lagi. Fighting ambiguity with agility. So flexibility, adaptability, and we must be agile. We cannot be very, very rigid. So we must promote people who thrive in a VUCA environment. So allow teachers to think differently. Allow our students to even, think in a different way. You cannot then saying, we have been doing this for the last 10 years. You cannot change. No, you can change. So I wish you can even change your school uniform. Oh, the student, for me, even students don't need it to use school uniforms, that kind of thing. But never mind, let YB Fazlina think about it. Okay, lead your team members, but don't dictate or control them. Okay, lead, the word is lead, not do, as I say, and work hard to build consensus. That's very good. But I don't think we have that much of a problem, yeah? And then we must embrace the idea culture. We must allow people to share their ideas, value ideas, ilmu, also knowledge. We must inculcate that the love for knowledge. And I think that will be, and my second last slide, I think. Okay, these are some of the leadership skills that we need: communicate, inspire confidence, demonstrate high emotional intelligence. This is where I think we women tend to demonstrate a higher level because of the nurturing side of women. But of course, people also said that women are very emotional in a negative sense. But I think we can also look at the positive side of the emotional part, the empathetic. We empathize, not just sympathize. Oh, you go. Okay, that's it. Empathy means, you go deeper into it, understanding. Like, for example, during the lockdown, there are people who have to look after their parents. We teach our in the business world, is it, you must allow them to be, to work with their parents because of the difficulties at that time, or everything is locked down. So we must build trust. We must promote healthy failures. Now, that's a very important point. Healthy failures, so that people are willing to make mistakes. We live in a society, people frown at mistake. People repeat it, and in the Iban society is even worse. They even have batu bula, if you tell a lie, they even say, oh my God, until you die, also people will keep on remembering how you broke a promise, how you bula means you told a lie. So in this case, to the point that sometimes students, even if they, to the point that sometimes they need to cover up, but we must allow them, but yet reprimand them for it. So do not repeat it. But at the moment, people are afraid to make mistakes. Because why? They will be reprimanded. They will be penalized for making mistakes. Okay? And then we must expand common ground, meaning to say we must find common ideas what we can share, how we can harness resources, different resources. So like you all called Madeline, like Dr. Lorita, Dr. Madeline, is it possible for you to help me? And I said, if I'm free, I'm fine with it. So go and find it out. Go and find out where you can get the resources. Don't worry. Don't think that the world is only within your four walls. Yeah? Make difficult conversation easy. Sometimes it's very difficult to Yelah, sometimes people say, oh, orang berpangkat, that kind of thing. Always so risau pangkat. Don't worry, it's just a pangkat for them, but don't be rude, We tend to be, we must know how to differentiate between being respectful and the other one is being rude is another thing, right? And then we must manage attention, empower our employees or our students or our whatever, and then deliver constructive feedbacks. So these are the things we seldom do, because we only know how to complain behind their backs. Cikgu nak malas. That lecturer, she didn't do well or blah, 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 blah. But we never tell them directly or tell them in a manner that is very constructive. Okay, last one. These are all my final slides. I remember this very well when I was in Sohakam. And in fact, because I was in the Human Rights Commission, I saw this incident in the newspaper. I contacted the cikgu. I was searching for him. Look out for this cikgu. So we managed to locate the cikgu and managed to, because it is a human rights issue of student. So I have to write into the Kementerian about this. But of course, there is only so much that you can do. But we need to create awareness. Of course, Kementerian is not that they know everything. I really pity. People said you are highlighting something that is negative. But, this is the reality. Remember, the first one was the UMS student. That she has to go and climb a tree to get the internet access. And then after that, this teacher brought her, even piggyback their students to walk across the forest to find the internet. The word that I want to highlight here is that crisis does not build character. It reveals it. That's the reality, actually, because there's so many strong people, strong teachers out there, but it's just that we only see them during, in ordinary times, we don't see them. But during crisis, you may see them if you allow it. Hold on. Okay, my next slide. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin is a very famous scientist. In his work on the survival of the fetus, all of us, I think we have read it somehow or somewhere, he was quoted as saying, "It is not the strongest of the species that survive, not the most intelligent that survive." Oh, I was surprised. Not the strongest, not the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change that will survive. So in order for us to survive, we need to be adaptable to change. You may be the best student in your class. You may be the top student in the university. But 10 years from now, don't be surprised. It is those students whom you think, or those students who we think were not good enough in the school, that we forget about them. But probably along the way, they have made changes. They have adapted to the environment, and they were the ones who will become the who's who in the world. So never underestimate our students. Never, differentiate our students so much. Sometimes we tend to focus only on the intelligent ones, the good ones. I have experienced that in school, so I know what it is like. So always treat our students, always empower our students, treat them with respect. You never know what or who they are going to be like in 10 or 15 years from now. So always remember, it is not the strongest of the species that survive, not the most intelligent, but it is the one who are most adaptable to change. This is from Charles Darwin. He studied about, the human evolution. Okay, next one. So thank you very much. So that was my photo taken, I think that was in the United Nations. So the small, rare opportunities to be able to, so as an Iban woman, as a Sarawakian, and as a Malaysian, to be able to enter that big hall in the United Nations. So thank you very much, Puan Jacqueline. Thank you very much, Loretta. More than 1 hour, 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Professor Medlina. We are really, really blessed today to hear such a extensive explanation, discussion on VUCA, and then how is it related to us, and how these educational leaders out there should, respond to the VUCA era. Okay, maybe we can. I'm representing our leaders out there. Share with us the age part of VUCA.
Yeah? Okay, right. Okay, thank you very much. Just now, because I want to relate to age, and also why is it very important for us to especially discuss VUCA in the current environment. Not only VUCA, because we are approaching Hari Malaysia, we are also approaching Hari Kebangsaan. Many of us are confused, and we also have Hari Sarawak. So, but because all this confusion, remember the word confusion there. All right. Now, the word VUCA, age here, as I said just now, initially we wanted, VUCA started as the word VUCA because of what happened during September 11. But the age, many started to include the age after what happened, especially after the lockdown. People realized that we need to be hyper-connected. The word is even hyper, but I'm not too sure whether we can be even hyper. Connected is already good enough already for us in the rural areas, because the word connectivity here can be physical and it can be also maya. It can be physical is very difficult nowadays, because not nowadays. Connectivity was very difficult during the lockdown. That was when we realized that how isolated we were. I can remember driving, because I have this problem. I have claustrophobia. I cannot be in a closed environment. So every morning, but please don't let them know. So I will jump into my car, and then I will drive along in front of my house just to make sure I get the fresh air. Very Iban in that sense, because I really need to have the fresh air rather than just stay indoors and all the time on the computer. And that was the time when I cannot even see a single human being. Not a dog, not a human being, not a cat. It was so surreal, So, and that's when you realize, oh my God, that, I think that is the only time when you feel when the word being alone, and why connectivity is so important. That's when you start remember. And I cannot return home to Sarawak also, and then my uncle was dying at that time because he was admitted to the hospital due to COVID. And then all of us we cannot meet up, and he was hospitalized in Kuching, and all my other relatives, some were in Sri Aman and things like that. And the word connectivity is very important, and especially after when he passed away, we cannot do nanyangai, we cannot do all the rituals that were expected. So that's when I don't know why I'm relating that, but what I want to tell you is that it is very important for us to appreciate the importance of being connected and the need to be connected, because that was the period people, it is not, it is not what you know anymore. It is who you know. People calling up and asking, do you have rice? Do you have vegetables? Because we are, there are some areas in Cebu that are, the white flag. You remember the white flag, the raising of the white flag. But people are connected in that way. So hyperconnectivity is not only in times of crisis. In this context, it is about responding to problems. But hyperconnectivity is also very important in the context of, what we call the world of VU just now, because of all the problems that we had related to ambiguity, because of the U, uncertainty, because of the complexity, and the V, So some people say it is part of VUCA, But some people say it is also part of the response to VUCA. You need to be connected. And we saw how difficult it was. Wire ada, Wi-Fi tiada. During the COVID, all the crocodiles in Sarawak were really happy because, nobody was, crossing the river, and everything. Oh, that was really, I thought that was a very catchy title for a newspaper clipping. It said, wire ada, Wi-Fi tiada.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ya. Okay, how about when we talk about connectivity, it's also talk about how schools nowadays need to be digitalized.
Right.
In this digital world, it's also connect with the VUCA world where we can't avoid from this change. We need to embrace it, like you said.
Right.
We need to embrace it. So how can school leaders react or respond to this? At the same time, we need to prepare our students or our learners to the VUCA world where they are able to, catch up with the world in terms of digitalization.
Very good. Okay. Number one, it is still very, what we call, it is still very, it's a very hardware thing. Okay. Because if you talk about internet and on connectivity, we are talking about two things here. One is hardware, the laptops and all the connectivity. And the other one is the software. The software, but the willingness, and of course the preparedness and everything to be able to use it. Now, the hardware part is, of course, that's where the ministry needs to play a very big role, in providing the hardware, the resources and everything. I think we really need to invest. It really shows how much we have lost, the lost learning generation, because of what happened during the 2 years of lockdown. So the government really has to invest. That's number one. And then I think number two, I think when it comes to leaders, because ours is a very centralized system. Everything is top down in terms of resources. The most you are given the money, but I don't think you can even go out and purchase Starlink like that cikgu. He has to purchase his own, right? But these are the creative ones lah. But I mean, to a certain extent, how many can do that? Probably not many. But I really, I really salute the teacher who bought that. Now that Elon Musk has his Starlink, so teacher. But then coming back to that issue, whether we like it or not, the state government and the federal government really must take into really have to work extra hard in terms of investing in terms of the hardware. But the software is another level. The software is that there is so much that that the government can invest. There's a lot of training and everything. Now, the software part, the VUCA, volatility. Now, the new normal now is the internet. It's no longer what we call, it is no longer something that is new. It is becoming a normal thing now. So if you are not having an internet, you are supposed to be no normal anymore. Because the new normal now is that every school should already have an internet. The issue is that to what extent are we responding to these changes? Number two, for example, if suddenly there is a sudden breakdown because of something happening, how prepared are teachers? Can they respond to what if suddenly the internet breakdown? That is more of our concern rather than having internet nowadays. So, like for example, if suddenly the whole system just kind of goes kaput, So, what are the alternatives that you have in your classroom now? So, some of them sometimes even they said, oh, our computers have been there, about rosak for God knows how long already. See, what are we doing about it? So that is more of our worry rather than not having the internet anymore. So, you may have computers not working. We have a system that is not functioning. And when they report, that's only when a minister comes visiting, only then they will come and repair. You don't have to go far. Just look at the recent exercise when YB Anthony Locke became the first when he after being sworn in as a minister of what do you call that, transport, what he did, he went through all the LRT station in Kuala Lumpur here, and he found out how many, the lifts are not working, the elevators are not working. Why do we need a minister to travel just to detect that? So that is more of the problem to me. In a VUCA environment, do we have a system that is in place if the system breaks down? Remember, response, a quick response. Our problem now, the new normal is we take our time. Not like if the bulb blows off, tunggulah, wait until the next, I don't know who visit lah, or wait for the next budget. And in a hospital, I remember going to the rural hospital, the landing site where the sampan arrives, and then it's just like a jambatan there. All the jambatan patah already. I keep scratching my brain, and yet our longhouse community is going to use that to go to the clinic desa. And then I was asking, why is it? They were like, you only require, papan and also paku and tukul. And then they said, we're waiting for the next budget. And it only requires that. Oh my God, I said, matilah orang kampung, that kind of thing. So these are the little things lah. How can we respond immediately? The hard way is one thing. The other one is, if it is not working, what are we going to do about it? So that's why if you look at the new, the Prime Minister have announced about toilets in school. People were laughing at him. People say it's so mundane. It's not mundane. It is nothing simple about it. If we cannot even solve our toilets, so what about all other bigger things? How many times do we visit student toilets? We don't. But if we go to Japan, students or kids learn from a very, very early age. They clean their own classroom. They clean their own toilet. So you may become the CEO when 30 years later, they become a CEO in their life. They know what a toilet should be like. A clean toilet. But we have never been there because everything is been done by tukang pencuci, that kind of thing. So these are the things lah. It sounds, it's so easy for me to talk about it, but then we need to do it as a society. We need to change, slowly. If not be fast lah. Because when I visit my anak buah, I see them, the school, which was also my former school. So, but this is in Kuching. Can you imagine? In the rural areas, it takes even longer time to get things done. Yeah. So we do hope that the ministry and also the teachers involved and also education leaders, because this is our investment for the future. They are our students. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your thoughts on that. Okay, maybe this is the last question that we might have for you. With regard to the Independence Day that is coming from Malaysia, what do the community and also educational leaders out there, especially in the rural and also interior part of Sarawak specifically, can do their parts to prepare our students in terms of being adaptive, towards these changes that the VUCA brings to this era nowadays?
Right. I think it's really appropriate. First, we have 31st August, then 16th September. There's so many dates, all these things that we need to remember. I would like to take this opportunity to wish everyone, Selamat Hari Kebangsaan. That's what they normally do, because I grew up in that environment. I only know one date, that is 31st of August. Then remember 16th September. And now suddenly we have Hari Sarawak. So it's good to have this many, and it's good to celebrate all this diversity. So in terms of kemerdekaan, the word kemerdekaan is very, very important here. The word is merdeka. Merdeka from what? We are no longer talking about freedom from penjajahan, taking at arms, fighting again. Penjajahan is sometimes what we are fighting now, to me, is to fight ignorance, to fight against, doing things asalkan jadi. In the word, this is where the word to have a mind, to free our mind from being what we call enslaved to the past. We are so used to doing things the way that we used to do, no? So, but I do not know to what extent you all can have that freedom. That I do not know, because I've been engaged in so many discussions. Like, for example, I'm giving you what worries me is that being an economist, I am at the other end. Yours is all at the starting point. Like every year, you all know that 70,000 students, more than 70,000, do not want to pursue their tertiary education. Now, we have calculated for students, how much does it cost from the day they were born until the day they, for the investment that we made, we as taxpayers, we as parents, we as grandparents, as uncles and aunties, and as a society, how much we invested in education. And suddenly to realize that they are not willing to pursue their education, they are not willing to do. So we have lost in terms of our human capital investment. So we are very, very worried. So of course, there's nothing wrong for them they want to become e-hailers. There's nothing wrong with them. But we are talking about, we need to differentiate between jobs and career. One is just to do a job, to deliver is just to do a job. But what we're talking about here is about human development. We're talking about career, as they go forward, as they go up. 10 years from now, what are they going to be? So that's number one. The other one is, of course, human capital investment mean it is a great loss to our country. So I think that is very important for us to educate our community, to make them, because many of us now, we are faced, people like me, when we did our research, we found out parents are unwilling, especially the B40, the B40 thinks that, why should I borrow money now? Why should I borrow money from PTPN to send my children to go to university? Because after they graduate, they still cannot get a job. How do we explain that to our relatives in the rural areas? How do we explain that to our community leaders in the rural areas, that whatever it is, the way to break the vicious cycle of poverty is through education? So I think that is very, very important for us to highlight. Not only freedom from me, but freedom from, believing that this is the right way to do it, that is prevent the children from going to school, and in some cases, maybe not in Sarawak, child marriage. Many children are being prevented from going to school. That is also another thing of the past, in the name of religion, in the name of culture. We have, especially girls, were prevented from going to school. So this is a kind of kemerdekaan. We're not longer just talking about, perjuangan menentang penjajahan. This is penjajahan minda. Yeah, to me, that is very, very important. Yeah, thank you very much. So selamat Hari Merdeka, selamat Hari Malaysia. Yeah, so we must celebrate both lah. We cannot just choose one or the other.
That's very true. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that also.
Thank you very much.
For today. So, okay. So that is to wrap up our session for today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we come to an end. Hope we can meet again next time and with different topic, maybe.
Sure. All right.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to our esteemed speaker and also the audience who joined us for today's insightful webinar. And this session has provided us with profound insights into the challenges and vital roles of education leaders in facing an ever-changing world, the VUCA world. As we approach the upcoming Independence Day of Malaysia, let us carry the spirit of freedom and unity into our efforts to build a robust and inclusive education system. As we have heard, the VUCA world demands leadership approaches that are adaptive, innovative, and collaborative efforts of all, not only on the education part only, but the politicians need to support the education system of Malaysia. And together we can make our education a cornerstone of development and empowerment for Malaysia. Malaysia's youth, in the face of future challenges. So let us continue to work together, learn together, and inspire one another to build a thriving nation of Malaysia. Now, before we conclude, I would like to extend my gratitude to our invited speaker, Yang Berbahagia Professor Datuk Dr. Madeline Burma, for sharing her insights and knowledge today on the VUCA world and the role of the community and educational leaders. Also, thank you to all our attendees who made this webinar a success. I hope that you all have valuable takeaways from today's session. So wishing you all a meaningful celebration of Malaysia's upcoming Independence Day, and may the spirit of independence continue to guide us toward shared success and prosperity. Thank you and have a great day.